Let's turn our attention now to northern Israel, where there's been a series of drones launched from southern Lebanon. They struck several areas, triggering air raid sirens. Explosions were heard in the coastal city of Nahariya. At least 17 people have been injured. The Israeli army says it intercepted at least one rocket. Now, Hezbollah has issued a statement claiming responsibility, saying in response to the attack and assassination carried out by the Israeli enemy in the town of Abba, the Islamic resistance fighters launched an air attack with a squadron of drones targeting the headquarters of the Golani Brigade and the headquarters of the Egoz Unit in occupied Akka, and accurately hit their targets and achieved confirmed casualties. Zein Basravi is standing by for us in Amman. We'll get the latest from him in a moment. First, though, let's go to Baig, who's in Marjayoun in southern Lebanon. And Assad, what does this strike suggest about Hezbollah's ability to attack northern Israel?
Well, it suggests a number of things. One is that Hezbollah has the intelligence, the locations of Israeli military facilities and installations, that they're able to strike them, but also that they're able to get through layers of Israeli defenses. Now, in the past, we have seen a barrage of Hezbollah rockets being intercepted, but sometimes it's believed by some that what Hezbollah tends to do is test the Israeli air defenses and try to figure out where those locations are. But this is significant because that location in northern Israel is roughly 20 kilometers away from the Lebanese southern border here. So slightly deeper than Hezbollah would usually strike. Again, that's significant as Israel anticipates this Hezbollah retaliation. But Israel has struck southern Lebanon today. They've hit the town of Mayfadoun, which is roughly 8 kilometers from the border, in an apparent airstrike. Now, the authorities say 5 people were killed in that attack. Now, what's significant about that attack, possibly significant, is that there are reports that Amir Orin was killed. Now, he is the nephew of former top Hezbollah commander Mustafa Badruddin, who was killed in an attack in 2016 in Syria. Now, we're still waiting for confirmation. But Israel has also attacked a town called Odessa, which is not far from where I am here. 1 person was killed, and also another strike on the town of Qiyam, which is less than a kilometer away from me, right behind me. 1 person was injured. Now, what we understand from Hezbollah statements and attacks today are that this isn't a part of the main retaliation that Hezbollah has promised in response to the killing of their senior commander, Fuad Shukr. Now, the General Secretary of Hezbollah, Hassan Nasrallah, is expected to speak later today, roughly about an hour from now. And as the world and the region awaits for this promised Hezbollah retaliation. Now, the Lebanese Foreign Minister Mustafa Bo Habib has said that Lebanon is working to ensure the response to the Israeli killing of top Hezbollah commander does not lead or trigger a war in the Middle East. Now, that's the real fear here, not just in Lebanon, but the entire region.
All right, thank you very much. Baig reporting to us from Marjayoun in southern Lebanon. Well, the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting from Israel, so Zein Basravi joins us instead from Jordan's capital, Amman. What might be the significance then of Hezbollah being able to accurately hit strategically important sites in northern Israel?
Well, it's significant because Hezbollah is able to maintain a consistent and incredibly challenging pressure campaign by way of these strikes on northern Israel. And to that point, just in the last 30 or 40 minutes, really in the last hour, we've seen yet another series of sirens going off in at least 3 towns in northern Israel. Reports of sirens going off in other parts of northern Israel as well. Drones flying overhead. Some reports that 1 drone did explode, whether it was shot down by Israeli missiles or not. Whether any of those sirens resulted in more Hezbollah ground strikes on Israel, that is still unclear. But what is clear is that Hezbollah is able to penetrate quickly and deeper into Israel, and the Israeli Iron Dome, once thought impenetrable, is simply not functioning as Israelis would like it to. To that end, the Israeli forces have confirmed that reports of, and I'm quoting from their social media channel here, reports of a fallen hostile aircraft on Route 4 in an area south of Nahariya. This is one of the major explosions that took place on northern Israel today. An initial inquiry indicates that it was an interceptor missile that hit its target and hit the ground, injuring several civilians, and the Israeli military is investigating what ended up being its own missile landing on its own territory, injuring so many people. So And at the same time as Hezbollah is able to show that it is able to carry out more sophisticated, more probing attacks on northern Israel, Israel's own defense systems don't seem to be working as they would like it to.
Okay, thank you very much. Zein Basravi reporting to us from Amman in Jordan. Let's speak now to Amir Orin, who's a columnist for Haaretz newspaper focusing on military and government affairs. He's normally based in Tel Aviv, but today he's joining us from New York. Thank you for speaking to us on the Al Jazeera News Hour. So what do you make of...
Thank you, Mariam.
What do you make then of the target of Hezbollah's strike in northern Israel?
Well, as you know, for the last 300-odd days, Hezbollah has been operating under two contradictory vectors. On the one hand, it wants to help Hamas and to join the fight and divert attention and forces that Israel has at its disposal from Gaza to the Lebanese border, and therefore give its share in what it sees as the joint resistance fight against Israel. But on the other hand, it behooves him not to go into Israel into a full-scale war, because then Iran, its patron, will lose its Hezbollah arm. Obviously, should Israel invade Lebanon or hit it with its full might, Hezbollah will be shattered, and the reserves which Iran has been positioning north of Israel for the day when it has nuclear weapons will no longer be there. So it's a very delicate game that Nasrallah has been playing. He is calling it equations. If Israel hits a certain target, he will try to hit a parallel target in Israel. If Israel hits a military commander in Hezbollah, he is trying to find the right person to retaliate against, but again, short of a full-scale war.
You say short of a full-scale war, but the suggestion is that we have not seen yet the collective response that has been anticipated following the assassination of Fuad Shukr and Ismail Haniyeh. So, and that is expected to be a collective response. I suppose, you know, what are Israel's options now if its security situation continues to deteriorate?
Well, you know, long before we had SMS and WhatsApp and what have you, we used to talk about telegraphing our punches. No one apparently uses the telegraph anymore, but this is what Iran and Hezbollah have been doing for the last 8 days. Since July the 30th, they've been talking about retaliation. So that means that there is no surprise attack in the offing, and therefore no need for Israel to preempt. Had Israel seen a real move towards pulling the trigger, as it may, Israel would have pulled its own trigger first. It seems all very choreographed in order for a response to be taken, perhaps for domestic reasons primarily, but not to be so severe as to escalate into a regional war.
So the Israeli government is waiting to see the timing and the scope of the Iranian response before choosing how it will counterattack.
And to see how its own defense array has been able to deal with this attack. And as we saw in the Marjayoun attack a couple of weeks ago, Saturday last week, if it so happens that a single rocket penetrates the defense and kills 12 boys and girls, Israel had no other recourse but to respond. But had this particular rocket been intercepted and no one would have been injured, we wouldn't have seen this escalation. So it all depends on the impact, the damage, the injuries, and only then can you analyze the consequences.
Amir Orin, thank you very much for joining us from New York.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.